In the Pythagorean theorem, it says that a right triangle has the sum of the squares of the legs equal to the square of the hypotenuse. So I think the important thing to remember here is how to identify the hypotenuse, and that is directly across from the 90-degree angle. So if you take the sum of the squares of the legs, that equals the square of the hypotenuse. We can use this to solve problems. Find the length of the shorter leg of a right triangle if the longer leg is 10 miles more than the shorter leg and the hypotenuse is 10 miles less than twice the shorter leg. Okay, that's a lot of information. Talks about a right triangle. So the hypotenuse is directly across from the 90-degree angle there. The other two are just legs. So leg, leg. Talks about a shorter leg and a longer leg, so I guess I can call this a shorter leg and this is a longer leg. Just visually looks that way. And we want to find the length of the shorter leg. Okay. So this is what we're trying to find here. Let me use a variable to represent it. And the rest of this says the longer leg is 10 miles more than the shorter leg. So 10 more than the shorter leg. And these are all in miles. The hypotenuse is 10 less than twice the shorter leg. So 10 less than twice the shorter leg. All right, so I've got all of these labeled, but how do I relate them together? That's where the Pythagorean theorem comes in. So this is a way to relate the legs to the hypotenuse. So the sum of the squares of the legs equals the square of the hypotenuse. So the legs are shorter, longer, x plus 10, and the hypotenuse is 2x minus 10. So this relates those together in an equation. And I just need to solve this equation to find what I'm looking for. So let me remove the parentheses by squaring. X squared is x squared. X plus 10 squared, however, you'll definitely want to multiply x plus 10 times another x plus 10. So that you get x squared plus 10x plus 10x plus 100. So if we expand that, that's x squared plus 20x plus 100. And then the same idea with the 2x minus 10. You'll want to multiply that by another 2x minus 10. So 2x times 2x is 4x squared. 2x times negative 10 is minus 20x. And then another minus 20x makes minus 40x altogether. And negative 10 times negative 10 is positive 100. I do recommend underlining the expansions because that helps keep track of it. Sometimes people will say, oh, I already have x squared, I don't need another x squared. But that's a different x squared, so be careful. Now we can go ahead and look at some like terms. So we've got x squareds over here that we can add together. That's 2x squareds. And those are the only like terms that we have. So now we're working with quadratic equation. The highest degree is 2. So we need to have 0 on one side. So I'm going to opposite the smaller x squared term. Since I'm taking away from the left, I'm going to take all of the terms away from the left. So opposite the x squared, opposite the x, and opposite the 100 from both sides. So that we have just 0 on the left side. And then when we combine like terms, that's going to give us 2x squared minus 60x, and that adds to 0. So we've got 0 on one side. Now we want to completely factor the other side. And it looks like there is a common factor for these two terms. They both share 2 and x with the lowest exponent. So let me factor that out, divide to see what remains. For the first term, that's going to leave x. For the second term, that's going to leave minus 30. So now any factor containing a variable is set equal to 0 by the zero product property. And let's solve these resulting equations. So for the first we get x equals 0, and the second we get x equals 30. Okay. Now let's take a look at what x stands for. Now that's the shorter leg. So if x is 0, does that make sense? 0 miles? Nope. What about 30? So if the shorter leg is 30 miles here, then the longer leg is 10 more than that, so 40 miles. And the hypotenuse is 10 less than twice that. So twice 30 is 60 minus 10 is 50. So I can double check that. If I want to make sure that I have the correct dimensions, then remember the sum of the squares of the legs, 30 squared plus 40 squared, needs to equal the square of the hypotenuse, 50 squared. And in this case, that's 900 plus 1600 is 2500. That's true. So that means we can state our conclusion. And actually, the question was the length of the shorter leg. So really my conclusion is the shorter leg is, 30 miles. That's my conclusion here.